Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. No screen is visible, sir.
So, good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. So, in case in between, if there is any voice breaking or the screen is not being shared, please let us know in the chat box. So, I welcome all of you for this August month's sustainability webinar series. So, today we are going to talk about whole building LCA. So this is brief about myself. Before coming to the Innovel, I have been in academics for more than 8 years, and had all these kind of learning and training related experiences. And I myself basically IGBC accredited professional and lead green associate, and currently working as senior sustainability engineer low carbon strategies at Innovel. So before proceeding to the session, let us know slightly about our webinars pathway so far. So we started this last April month. So every month we are organizing or hosting a webinar focusing on low carbon or decarbonization strategies exclusively for built environment. As you know, belongs to AEC industry, so we focus on built environment. So we started with carbon sequestration, then we were talking about embodied carbon measurement techniques and tools. Then we were given training about how to become IGBC accredited professional. So then last month we were talking about GHG accounting fundamentals. So because along with LCA, another emerging topic is GHG accounting for corporates and businesses, which is being mandatory or becoming mandatory worldwide. So this month it is about whole building LCA. So tentatively, our next webinar topic for the month of September will be carbon negative building materials, especially with the focus on Indian market perspective. So I hope some of you are much aware about carbon negativity or carbon zero, net zero, all those things. So our next webinar will be about carbon negative building materials from the perspective of Indian market. So before proceeding to the session, let me quickly introduce about our company Innovel. We are consulting firm based in Sivakasi, South Tamil Nadu, and having branches at Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Bangladesh, Dhaka. So we provide BIM services, HVAC design, and sustainability. So we started in 2013, and we have been coming across various situations, handling different talents across various domains. And right now we are quite big family with 140 plus members working from the office as well as working from the homes. So this is our top orders. So our beloved director Gunasegaram sir and all others, and especially Mr. Thali Selvam, the deputy manager of corporate sustainability, and we are all reporting to him as well. So, as a Innovel, we would like to happily say that we are a certified proven provider by USGBC for continuous facilitating support for buildings for getting their LEED certifications. So, this particular proven provider would be given for to the consultant whom makes more number of LEED platinum certifications in a given year So based on that performance measure, we have been certified this one, and our sustainability behavior as a company has been certified by EcoVadis with bronze medal, making us being a part of the top 35 percentage. And we are all ISO certified as usual. This is our service profile. So as I mentioned, HVAC and design to build to the sustainability, we are expanding our service verticals. So from the sustainability perspective, so since I belong to a sustainability team, this is our project completion statement. So we work for these different topology of buildings for their MEP BIM design as well as for green building certification facilitation. So this is our brief abstract. So we work for LEED certification, IGBC, Griha as well as well certification. So well certification means for indoor environment and quality, occupants living style. So we cover all these things, and they are our clients domestic as well as from abroad. So our head office at Sivakasi itself has been certified by LEED Platinum for the existing building operation and maintenance category. So that's a quick look about ourselves, and this is our contact details. So for any consulting requirements or services related to build, MEP design as well as sustainability, you are free to contact us. So today's webinar, this is what we are going to talk about. So first we will get to know what is pole building LCA. So this is highly structured based on the assumption that the participants knows what is LCA, right? Basically, right? What is what? That's that level of knowledge is enough. Then we will talk about why we do it, where it is being asked, and why it is being addressed. Then after that, we will talk about how is the actual core process of whole building LCA. Then we will talk about our own experience with whole building LCA and our statistics and all. Then finally, we will go on the demo with one-click LCA software. So what is whole building LCA? So life cycle assessment, in the sense, it talks about measuring environmental impacts of a product throughout its life cycle, right? So throughout its life cycle, in the sense, the moment the raw material for making that particular product is started, from that moment until the product is getting disposed after its usage period, right? So the entire span of the life is being covered with the perspective of environmental impact. So throughout this journey, how a product impacts on environment. So that environmental impact is being measured and quantified, right? So that particular process, we can call it as LCA. So that LCA, we can apply for any kind of product. So over the period, people started understanding construction sector contributes major to the environment impacts. So stating up with the numbers, so people tell that 39 percentage to 41 percentage, the construction sector contributes to the energy consumption and embodied carbon demand. So why not we should treat a building as a product? So from that particular point of view, this concept of whole building LCA evolved, right? So whole building LCA is a comprehensive method used to evaluate the environmental impacts associated with all different stages of a building from its conception to its end of life. So what are the different stages? So for that understanding, European National Code has been deriving a definition, right? So like the life stages of a building can be split into different modules, and each module has a code like A module, B module, C module, and finally D module. So in each module, different splittages are there. So in case of A module, it starts from A1 to A5. But right now in the screen, what you see is A naught is there. So that has been recently added. Recently in the sense, just in the month of August 2024, they have added that A0 as well as at the bottom, if you see, B8 module has been added. So these two modules has been added. So I can say that wherever you browse or go through, witness these life cycle modules of a building, you can able to see only from A1 to A5, then B1 to B7, then C1 to C4 and D. So here it has been further, described into a smaller modules so that the accuracy of final result can be much more reliable and to the what to say reliable as well as complete in the sense, right? So without leaving any stones unturned. So from that perspective, they have added these three new models. So from the left side, you can able to see production of materials. So that comes with the raw material extraction and the material has been transported to the factory or the industry from where the particular product has been manufactured or developed or fabricated. Then from the factory, the material has been again transported to the construction site. So that's what is being mentioned from production of material to building construction. In the during construction, we have one concept called installation or construction. So if it is a fitting out the components, you will need to install it. So if it is a on-site or in-situ construction, you would spend energy on-site and you will build from the bottom up, right? So once the construction is over, it is subjected under the occupancy and the usage, right? So during the usage, mostly people are talking about energy, operational energy. People used to say whether it may be an electricity consumption or water consumption, right? But apart from these two, there are another set of energy is also there, which means consumption is also there. So I will explain. So once the usage of the building is come to an end for say some 40 years or 50 years, right? So we used to say design period, right? Normally in engineering design. So for how much time the particular infrastructure is being designed. So after the design period, the building is come to an end of life stage where it may be dismantled or it may be demolished or it may be left out as it is, right? So from the end of life stage, it may or may not go back to its original form, which means the raw material form, so that only the line has been marked as a dotted line, right? So like this, it comes as a loop, right? So people are trying to close that loop only in the name of circular economy or circularity, right? So all those things, all these things are comes under this particular life cycle of building, any building you take, right? So now come to the right side. So we have different modules, right? So as I mentioned here to D, A, B, and C, D, right? So we can split the manufacturing stage, like from the moment the raw materials are acquired from the earth until the final form of product is manufactured. So that segment is called A module. So from A1 to A5. So now, as per this updated modules, what is being mentioned as A naught, it is like non-physical process before construction or preliminary studies, test and design. So it is like pre-construction, like R&D or trial and error or initiation period, right? So in surveying, people used to say whatever the survey may be, the first stage is recognition survey, right? What is that? We just simply go and visit the site and gauge, visually what is there, what is not there, how we are going to deal with this, all those understanding mental calculation, recognition survey. So that particular aspect they have considered here as pre-construction stage. So during that process, some amount of carbon is being consumed. So it is like being operative. You are tend to spend some amount of carbon, whether you are in the office, using all the electricity, discussing about the future plan and, making different alterations and everything, or whether you take your vehicle, go to the site and discuss there with the actual existence on the plot. So all these things are coming under this particular pre-construction A naught. So from there, it kick-started. So now you start a construction. For that construction, the product comes, and that product comes through all the way of A1, A2, and A3. So here people may have different, what to say, different loops, we can say. One thing is cradle to gate, cradle to grave, cradle to cradle. So what is that? Cradle in the sense, anyway, so sorry, I thought I asking question like in a classroom. So cradle in the sense like a baby crawling, right? So that is what cradle normally is mentioned. Then grave in the sense final disposal, right? So in between, how you want to quantify the environmental impacts, people are having three different set or stages or checkpoints, we can say, right? So from A0 to A3, we can take it as cradle to gate, which means from the raw material acquisition until the product is ready to distribute at the factory's gate, right? So that is what the cradle to gate. Cradle to grave in the sense from the A1 and you supply the material, it is getting transported A4 and it is being constructed or installed at the site A5 and it is being used throughout its usage period, which is nothing but B1 to B5. What is there? So you either use it or maintain it, repair it, replacement, refurbishment. So for all these things, one may not go through all the things, but at least either of these five things will be happening with any building. So that only what people will do while conducting whole building LCA, people will ask you to consider at least at least 2 to 3 modules of B1 to B5. So that's a like a condition, right? I will explain while we are using the what to say, the software, right? Then once it is being used, then it goes to the end of life. In the end of life, what are all the different options? Deconstruction and demolition. So once it is being demolished, it's again getting transported. Where it goes? It goes to the waste deposition or material recovery facility, MRF people used to say. From there, again, it may be processed or it may be disposed directly or it may be going back to the raw material manufacturing industry. And that is what being given in the beyond life cycle option, because that beyond life cycle D module cannot be considered or cannot be applicable for all the buildings across the world, irrespective of the geography, political, economical levels, right? So they put it as outside of the usual life cycle and they call it as circular economy model. So either you can reuse, recycle, energy recovery and other recovery things are exported utilities. So the thing is, a concept called a material passport is emerging from the western part of the world, right? So there people are talking about the deconstructed building components can be given some numerical identity, just like we are all having our own passports, right? So that those deconstructed building elements can be exported or imported to different countries. So for what? For its reuse, continuous use. So that's what being mentioned in the D2, right? So that's again another separate concept, material passport, right? So that's an emerging concept. So If you take a building, it starts with A naught, as I mentioned, and it goes to B series, then C series, finally D series. So D series is somehow, somewhere it happens. Many places it doesn't happen. So what people are classifying here, this A0 to A5, they are calling it as upfront embodied carbon, which means until the construction happens, right? So you can think from the designing, which means planning for a construction until the construction is getting completed, right? How much time it may take if you, for example, if you are constructing a building G+5, right? So how much time it may take? Maximum 10 months or 1 year, some G+5, right? Any locality you can think of, maximum 1 year from the planning stage until the final completion, right? So it depends on how much amount of material you want to pour into your building. So that period, the embodied carbon enormously consumed, right? So that is what people are calling it as upfront, immediate, right? Once the building is completed, you cannot change what those embodied carbon of building materials have exhibited as impact on the environment. What remaining you can control is the usage period, the B1 to B5. How much time B1 is B1 to B5? As I mentioned, design period 40 years, 50 years, right? So can you able to understand the initial A0 to A5 travels only for maximum 1 year, maximum, right? But B1 to B5, it takes 40 years. It takes, decades. So what people are worrying much about, not the operational carbon which is being consumed in the usage stage, but what huge amount of carbon which is being consumed during the very first initial 1 year. So people are started worrying about, no, 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 we don't need to worry about operational carbon. Operational carbon can be offsetted with the help of renewable energy or all other things. Somehow people will do that. But what we can really worry about is the upfront embodied carbon, which means once the building is constructed, it is locked. You can't able to reverse it. But in the usage stage, you can spend as much as energy as possible. You can conserve as much energy as possible. It's all in your hand, which means the control is flexible. But with respect to the model A0 to A5, there is no control at all. Once it is completed, it is locked. So people are taking that as very serious note, and they are calling it as upfront embodied carbon, the beginning, very beginning. Then including upfront embodied carbon and your what to say the usage period and the end of life stage is called the life cycle embodied carbon. And in the life cycle, if you are continuously adding your operational energy, water, and all those things, it would be called as whole life carbon. So somewhere people might have understood, as a participant of this webinar, you might understood that embodied carbon is only from A0 to F8. No, embodied carbon happens from A0 to until C4, except the modules B6 and B7, because they are only meant for operational energy consumption and operational water consumption. So during the maintenance period, during the usage period, during the end of life stage of the building, whatever you spend for the sake of the building, that would come under the tag of embodied carbon only. So embodied carbon means it starts from A0 to C4, except B6, B7. Now you can add B8 also, except B6, B7, B8. So if you are telling, I want to consider whole building life cycle analysis, means you have to consider from A0 to C4. So that's what this particular code, European code suggests. What's the code? EN 15978. It's the universal code There is no American, there is no Chinese, nothing. It is European code, right? So now I hope you understand what is upfront embodied carbon, what is life cycle embodied carbon, and what is whole life carbon. So whole life carbon in the sense both water and operation. So, right. So life cycle embodied carbon, people are excluding that. So whether we are considering B module while doing the LCA of entire building, it depends, right? So whether when we are giving inputs, it will be considered, or else it won't be considered, right? So I will mention where the circularity of the material will be considered while doing the LCA in the software, right? So this is what, right? So why we are doing it? What is the necessity? Because of LEED certification. So we have IGBC, we have GRIHA, green building certification from India, but both of them doesn't require LCA, right? Whole building LCA. You should understand. Normally LCA means product LCA, but what we are here we are addressing is whole building LCA. So both of the IGBC and GRIHA doesn't talk about whole building LCA because they don't worry about the embodied carbon. They focus more on usage period, operational carbon, operational energy, and the operational wellness of the occupants, all those things, right? So wherever LEED certification involves, we will hear about whole building life cycle analysis. So we from Innovel, we deal with two different certifications. One is interior projects, another one is new projects. So another third one category is where existing EBOM, existing buildings operation and maintenance, which is actually focused more on operational stage. So there they don't much worry about embodied carbon and all, right? So for LEED version 4.1, that is the current one. The next version 5 is expected to arrive from the January 2025. So as of now, the LEED version 4.1 in either ID plus C or BD plus C doesn't mandate the LCA. You should understand. Not mandatory, but still that these whole building LCA credit will be there in the credit book. So the client, whoever wants to get a platinum certification, or somebody would come with the ideology of I want 100 out of 100 marks. So those kind of situation lead us to go for the building LCA. So with respect to ID plus C, if you take the right side, the credit name is material and resources credit. There, third option is there, building interior life cycle assessment. So maximum you can get 2 points for doing that. So what is the 2 point? You have to meet the requirements of path 1 and conduct life cycle assessment of project's interior design compared against the baseline condition. So what's the baseline? We will see, right? In the left side, what we can see is BD plus C. So there maximum you can go get 3 points with the help of whole building LCA. So you may ask, sir, only 2 points, 3 points, this much knowledge or this much discussions is really need, sir? Yes, because the entire LEED certification is all about 2 to 3 points only, not like 5 points, 10 points, 15 points you cannot make, right? So it's like a integration of different range of efforts leads to the maximum environmental burden reduction. That's the concept of green building certification, right? So this is what the LEED certification requires. So in the BD plus C, additionally what they are mentioned, the demonstration of whole building life cycle should showcase minimum of 10% reduction compared with the baseline building. In the right side for ID plus C, there is not such criteria, but in BD plus C, the 10% reduction is mattered. So what is the 10% reduction from what? I will explain. So 10% reduction compared to baseline in at least 3 of 6 impact categories. So what is mean by impact categories? I will explain, right, one by one. So this is why we go for whole building life cycle analysis. If we keep aside the LEED certification, there is no other requirement for us to go for whole building LCA, right? So only because of LEED certification. In European Union, if you take BREEAM, so there people are mostly following BREEAM certification, green building certification. There also people are mandating or requiring whole building LCA. So those BREEAM is exclusively meant for European Union countries, right? I think some 28 countries are there in European Union. So those countries majorly follow BREEAM, not much with LEED, because you know very well there is always a competition between Americans and Englishmen. So whether we are big or you are big, so they don't follow their things, and Americans don't follow BREEAM, right? But for us, whatever Americans do, when we can do, we feel so pride, right? So in India, people are going for LEED certification more than our own IGBC or GRIHA certification, right? So that's the condition. And because of that, we require whole building life cycle analysis, right? So now, how we do it, how it is done. So there is a pathway. I don't want to, theorize all these things, but let me tell you this very quickly so that we can move on to the actual demonstration of the software. So first, the client has to submit you the bill of quantity, right? Or at least floor plans. So you should be given with some inputs about the actual construction there, right? Whether it is ID plus C. What is ID plus C, BD plus C? Interior design and construction. BD plus C means building design and construction. BDC normally meant for new building. IDC is normally meant for existing building, but they are only doing for interior work, right? So if you ask which comes up with maximum embodied carbon, whether BD plus C or ID plus C, it is ID plus C. Because of all the interior materials, they would ask for different ranges. Every individual rooms will need to have different flooring, different type of walling, and a different type of ceiling. So if it is there some 4,000 meter square grass floor area, it will be huge material list, right? But if you take BD plus C, only major stuff is concrete, steel. That's all. Then you will have bricks or blocks. That's it. And obviously, the fourth content is mortar. So maximum of these four materials would be occupying majority of embodied carbon with the BD plus C. But ID plus C, it's like a different range. You will see different material which you have never seen or never heard in your entire life, right? So that kind of expectation people will come with, right? The client, when they give the bill of quantity, you would surprise of seeing it. So how typical these people are, right? Once you get the initial data, you have to establish the baseline scenario, right? So for establishing baseline scenario, we have different tools, a lot of tools. Many of them are free and many of them are, paid version. So since we are using one-click LCA, Carbon Designer 3D, such a tool is inbuilt into that software. So we use that for establishing baseline scenario, right? So once the baseline scenario is completed, then we model the baseline condition. So once the modeling of baseline condition is established, then we will go for modeling of actual or proposed case situation. Once that is over, we would compare and we would do the optimization. So to achieve the that minimum 10% reduction, right? So once it is done, so we will provide, we will start preparing the narrative and the final report and final credit form, and finally we will upload it on online lead portal so that it would be under review for 2 to 3 weeks, and after that they will share their comments. And if it is there anything we need to do, we have to do and resubmit again. And after 2 to 3 weeks, they will announce the final certification status, right? So this is the entire process. And with respect to Innovel's expertise, these are all the 9 projects that we have completed since last 4 months. So total before that some 4 projects, so totally 13 projects, and out of 13 we have we received credits, which is awarded already for 9 projects, and 4 projects under review still, right? So now we can proceed with the one-click LCA demo. I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, fine. So this is the logged in page. I would like to say that one-click LCA is a cloud-based application, which means it gets updated every once in a moment in real time. It's not a typical software you have to install and you have to open. If the software gets crashed, everything is gone. And you have to contact the supplier and they will do it and they will again send the setup file. So it's not that, it's in a web application, right? So simplified one. So this is how it will look like. So on the right hand side, you will have add, so building. So one-click LCA offers both product LCA also, but we don't have that license. We have only building license. So you got to choose the building, and initially you got to select the license, right? Then only it will move further. So name, we can say webinar demo, right? You can choose as per the building type. So what's the type of the building topology we have to select? So mostly we will do office buildings. So office buildings. Address, very importantly, we have to give, because based on the location, it will give the suggestions of materials, right? So we can go for Chennai, Tamil Nadu. You can give the detailed address, right? Anyhow, it will show, and you can pick obviously India. Then gross floor area. So this will be provided by your client. So 5,000, right? The number of stories above ground floor. Okay, for G plus floor. So what is the frame type? So what are the options? Concrete frame, steel frame, timber frame, mixed frame, all these things are available. Mostly for India and Bangladesh clients, we had a concrete frame, and very specifically, timber frame will be there. But still, you can choose not determined or not sure, which means this particular selection won't affect your final result, right? The image, you can upload any random logo. So what certifications pursued? So for what, as I mentioned, these are the different green building certifications across the globe. So our lead is there, lead 4.1, BDC or IDC. So before proceeding further, we have to decide here whether our interested building is actual building or interior project. So we can choose BD plus C as of now. After choosing that, it will ask what certification level you want to pursue. Obviously, everyone would like to get platinum, right? Even though the client is okay with the gold, we always choose platinum. I really don't know whether this particular selection of platinum and other things would reflect in the material selection. According to me, is no. But why they are asking this is to understand the user's intention, right? So it's like gathering some indirect data about the user, right? For the benefit of one-click LCS promotional activities, right? Fine. So next, so this would be the next thing, and general information, whatever we have entered, it will be shown here. All these things are, if you want to mention anything, you can mention here. So then design phase, 0 designs. So we have to add a design, right? So get started. So while we are starting, it will ask you 3 different things. One is European standard plus A1 or European standard plus A1 plus A2. So these two things, as you understand, it's like what to say, uh, the geographical specification, right? So mostly these two things are made for Western and American countries, right? So Canada, North America, those places would go for these levels. But what about other parts of the world, sir? So we got to go for international, right? So there is a common methodology. So international or common version. So that's what we have to choose, right? So what are the things would be differentiated because of these choice seriously matters, right? So all the material data and the impact data would be at the level of average values for our current selection, which means international selection. But with respect to specific selection, the impact data and material data would be much more accurate and specific. That's the difference, right? So there is no specific data set for India, sir. Yes, there is no specific impact method suitable for India, even though not only for India, not one, not for Pakistan, not for Singapore, not for all these all other countries, not for China, right? So that's the status of the data sets and the accuracy level we should understand. So what we are choosing is common internationally accepted average value sets, right? So that's the meaning. So now we have to design. So as I mentioned, we have to first establish the baseline, right? So demo baseline. Additional information you can choose the level, design stage or whatever the stage you are at, you can currently choose levels. So it's pre a scope, that's like a building boundary, which means a system boundary, and what is the goal. All these things comes under the scope, and it is already predefined. So what is the type of construct project? New construction we chose already, right? And frame type also we don't select particular. So new construction means we will have foundation and substructure. So if we are going for interior, we should uncheck this particular thing, because interior project uh, we don't do foundation under, it's already constructed building, right? So now we got to select it. Foundation, structure and enclosure, finishes and other materials. Somewhere people used to add services also, which means electrical, water plumbing, HVAC, all the things would be included, right? But normally that's not included. So in case if you want to include, you can include. And the external areas in the sense out of the built spaces, carpet area, landscape areas will be there. There some structure or establishments would be there, right? All those things, if you want to consider, you can select that also, right? Or else these three things would be the common things. So then life cycle assessment parameter setup. So this is what I told. What you chose initially would come here. So use default LCA parameters, right? So it would buffer and it would come with the demo baseline. Now we have to input our data. So what are the data? Calculation period. So the total life cycle means how many years you want to consider, right? So basically in the system, for 1 year or 1 day, we can say 1 year, right? So for 1 year, what is the total impact of a particular material? So if you are giving 50 years, it will get multiplied with the 50. That's it. So that only we have to put calculation period. Then what's the building area? Then what are all the building materials are there, right? So this is what we have to give. But before doing this, we have to go for the estimation of baseline scenario. So how it will be. So we have to use the carbon designer 3D. So it comes and it will tell you the tentative embodied carbon estimation of your intended building, right? So we have to create a design here. It is like uh, uh, doing some trials, right? Before modeling the actual baseline. So design name, demo baseline, right? So here reference building they are asking again. There is no Indian reference building is available. International building only we are using. So what's the type? Office buildings, and this is what we have already input, right? 5,000 meter square and calculation period 50 years. Give next. So what are the elements you would consider? Foundation, ground slab, structure, enclosure, finish. Services we don't consider. This ground slab, why, what it is? It is actually where basement floors are there. This ground slab means so important, right? Not like our typical floor slab. It's a ground slab. So if you don't have basement floors like -1, -2, -3, you don't need to select this, right? So now what are the number of floors? We already put 4. Number of underground heated floors. So these situations is meant to for cold countries, which means Western countries. We don't have all these things. Then number of underground unheated floors. No underground floors at all for us. So 0, 0. Then structural frame. So initially we can choose not determined or not sure, but here for estimation we have to choose something, right? Concrete casting situ, column slab frame incorporated in a thick maximum slab. So different options are there. Concrete load bearing internal walls, like frame, whatever it is, right? So based on the expected condition, so from the client, you can ask this, what they are going to choose. So from that, we can choose piling length. So this is actually not piles, not a type of foundation we are defining, but this is for visualization. I will let you know what is that, right? Then, in case if you have any soil stabilization method, I know in case of any hilly regions means you can choose that soil stabilization. So what it impacts means it would add some initial embodied carbon prior to the actual construction, right? So that's what it means. Then next, then this is the what is that? The model building that we just uh, given, right? You can choose this transparent. So this is what the basic dimensions came up with automatically from our input data. So not like this, or my building actually stands tall, not so wide means you can adjust here, right? So with this 76 meter, no sir, only 30 meters means you can like this, right? So it's somehow taller structure means you can do like this, right? So it's all depending on whatever the input you give based on the client's discussion, you can make it here, right? So let's make it some things. So only 4 floors we mentioned, right? So G1, 2, 3, 4 is there. So that only it comes. So in case of any staircases, if you want to increase, you can increase for internal floor height. It's as basic, which means default height 3.3 meter. Then column spacing distance, if you want to increase, you can increase. Which means if it is decreased, more number of columns are there, right? So no, it's not like that. So we can design accordingly. So this and all are happening with the continuous discussion with the client. Whenever they give the data, we have to get all these informations to establish the baseline conditions. So this is additional building dimensions, envelope thickness, roof shape efficiency factor. In case if you have some different roofing shape like dome or different kind of thing, accordingly you can mention it as a efficiency factor. then length to depth ratio, everything you can, see here. So once it is finalized, understand this is like a trial, right? So finally calculate areas. It will calculate the total area of your different building components. So area in the sense like estimation, right? So based on this value, it will indirectly calculate the embodied carbon of different elements, right? In case after calculating this also, if you want to increase or decrease, you can do that. So here if you see beams completely zero, so you can put some 1.3 meter or 4 meter, something like that, right? Connecting parts, diagonal wind bracings. So in case of Gulf projects, you would need to focus here. Wind bracings they would have for high-rise buildings there because there the sandstorm are very common phenomena. So once everything is done, again you can go for next and submit. So once you submit, it will tell you what are all the hotspots of your forecasted building regarding the embodied carbon. So for different material elements, what is the tentative embodied carbon, it would show. So in the left side, what you can able to see, totally what they are telling, 305 kg CO2 equivalent per meter square grass floor area. So which component contributes most? Floor slab. So what is the purpose of doing this? So we can understand, so wherever the red comes, that's the maximum intensity, right? Floor slab. So with the help of reinforcement and concrete, right? So that only. Then the next maximum roof slab, then floor finishes, then what else? Walls, staircases, foundations. So all these understanding we can get to know. Then we can see like by material also. So which particular material contributes most? So ready mix concrete uh, contributes maximum because of flooring. So while we are doing the baseline estimation establishment, we can keep this thing in mind so that while doing baseline and proposed case, we can focus more on these elements so that only we can achieve our desired result, right? So at bottom, if you scroll down, you will see everything, right? So here also with the design, Carbon Designer 3D, you can optimize your options and you can understand the respective impact also, which means you can edit, you can choose material, right? Environmental profile, right? So everything would come under here. So concrete, and fine. So for foundation, so if you choose the structure, it would come floor slab, columns, shear walls, everything would come. So you can edit here and you can choose a different material here. So what's the actual material? In situ concrete beam, right? With one click will see data. So you can add a different component, like it's like a innovation, right? So it's beam, but along the beam you can have a frame, timber frame. You can have a steel beam instead of concrete beam at any one particular floor, because that particular floor there may be some machineries or candy gather or whatever it may be coming in. So within that particular floor or particular beam option, you can change the things, right? So that's what the thing is. So everything you can edit and you can visualize what that particular change of material reflect in the total carbon footprint. So like this, people do like initial trial and error and understand and communicate it to the client so that the client would understand, okay, that's the area we got to focus. Then we got to go for the alternatives for achieving less environmental impact, right? So this is what like baseline understanding with the help of some tool. As I mentioned initially, Carbon Designer is inbuilt in OnClick LCA, and third-party tools are also there. You can explore like material by material or component by component. We can understand, right? But I can say most of the tools, including this Carbon Designer 3D, is not so Indian specific, right? It's international reference only we have. We just have some average of the entire global data, right? So if your client comes from Gulf, if your client comes from Australia, or if your client comes from European Union countries, then your results would be highly accurate and reliable for them, right? So that's the thing. So let's return to the project. So now we have to model the baseline, actual baseline, right? So let's go somehow quick. So they are asking some modifications. So normally people go for 50 years, right? BD plus C. ID plus C interior design means 20 years or 25 years. Because that's the maximum period with which the components, functions properly without requiring additional thing. So building area. So how much we put? 5,000, right? Yes. Then building materials. So this is how the modeling segment would look like. I hope the screen is visible, right? So foundation, vertical structure, facade, vertical structure, external walls and facade, column and load bearing, internal wall and non-load bearing, then horizontal structure, beam, floor, roof, then other structure, finally, windows, finishes, everything would come under. So for each thing, let us make one entry, right? So foundation means concrete, steel, right? Concrete, if you are putting, it would load and it would come. So these are the different material options for concrete. So in top, we can freeze the country of originals. So now the choices has been lessened, right? So if you remove the country tag, and if you see that, the choices should be higher. It's like global choices. So normally it's there for foundation, ready mix concrete for foundation. So these are all the different material choices for foundational concrete. So since our earlier data indicates it's a Indian location, top it will come as Indian material choices, then it would go for other country choices, right? So from that you can understand the red color, orange color, green color, dark green color indicates the respective materials environmental footprint, right? So the red color indicates maximum environment impact. So like that it would change according to the color. So for baseline condition, what is mean by baseline condition in the sense, what is the normal practice of that particular location? So in that normal practice in the sense, their respective architects or previous clients or some other consultant would be discussed and established based in practice. So in Bangalore, so for example, our example is Chennai, right? So in Chennai, people are going for this type of concrete only. Ready mix concrete means this much grade only they will normally go. Okay, that's the baseline condition for concrete. And what about reinforcement? Likewise, they would have listed the baseline practice of that particular locality based on their experience. Like I'm talking about architects, right? So because architects only are a bridge between the actual client and our consultant. We are consultant. Innoval is a consultant, and architect acts as a bridge. So based on the experience and inputs of architects, we would get to know what might be preferred as a material basically, which means without the understanding of carbon, embodied carbon reduction and all those things. So in that perspective, normally people would go for the like Portland slag cement because Nowadays, it's ready-madely available without much, struggle. So that would be our baseline material choice. So what is the quantity? For example, we can do 100 meter cube. So in the right side, if you keep on drag, you can understand the transport. So normally, as we have already seen, A1 to A5 is there, right? So everything would be mentioned here. So what is the transport? So which type of vehicle? Everything would be there. And based on our condition, input condition, the transport would be default selection by the software, right? So then localization is India. Then what is end of life process, whether you are going to landfill it or whether you are going to crush it to the aggregate. This is nothing but inclusion of module D, right? And this concrete itself is a part of reused material, means you can check here, or you cannot, you don't need to check here. So the simple checking of this particular option makes your material as a circular material already, right? If you check this entire concrete of 100 meter cube is actually made from the old crushed concrete, right? That's the meaning. So if you uncheck it, it's a virgin new concrete. That's the meaning. So accordingly, the respective impact would be calculated, right? Locally reused means you can do it, right? Sir, there was an earlier one building was there. We demolished it, and those demolished component we are using as an aggregate means you can check here, right? So that's the meaning. So likewise, there would be reinforcement. We can choose that. Next, we can go for vertical structure, right? External walls like bricks, right? So bricks are blocks. Let's go with bricks, brick, common clay brick. So if you see for Indian condition, there is no specific data for brick, right? So we are having different countries data. So we choose one random stuff. So the unit can be meter square, kg, ton, anything, right? So for 5,000 floor area, we can have 1,000 meter square as wall area for brick, right? Same way, if you drag down, everything would be default placement. So for every material selection, you should press the save button because immediately it would calculate your carbon footprint parallelly, right? Then for column, let's choose reinforcement for concrete, right? You choose, it would show. So for reinforcement, lot of Indian products are there. So normally people don't go for recycled steel. So we should choose this 0% recycled content for a baseline condition. No, sir, people are going for recycled content, but they are worrying about more amount of recycled content. That's the baseline situation. Means you can choose 15% recycled content as a baseline case, right? So kg. Normally it comes in ton. So we can say 10 tons. It's all approximate, right? Actually, from where I should enter this data from a bill of quantity supplied by the client, right? You should understand. So then internal walls, non-load bearing structure, which means a partition wall. So for that, let's go for aerated concrete. Let's put any keyword, it would show the result also. So autoclaved aerated concrete solid blocks. So what's the size partition wall, right? So we can go for 100 mm. So how many units? Somewhere it comes with unit kg ton, somewhere it comes with area. So accordingly you can choose. Okay, some 2000 units, right? So you can save it. And now we shall move on to horizontal structure. So floor, for floor again it is concrete and reinforcement. So now, apart from that, we shall go for tiles, right? Normally for BD plus C, people don't go for interior elements, but still for the demo purpose, we are doing it, tiles. So what are the different tiles are there? So carpet floor, which means flooring. Sorry, I mentioned as tiles. It is flooring, right? After the floor slab is constructed, the top layer. So we shall go for office building only, right? So we can go for carpet flooring. Yes, carpet flooring, different things are there. Carpet tiles with nylon, with different things. So once you don't have the Indian condition, which means that particular location condition, you don't need to worry about that because the final report we would make assumptions, right? So we would mention everything. For those materials are not available as per the database, we chosen the neighborhood country. So for India, what's the neighborhood country? Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and we can go for Myanmar and that countries as well. And up to we can go for Gulf regions, right? So those materials we can mention. Like we did not have the choice in our data set, so we chose those countries' materials for establishing the comparison like that. So don't need to worry about that. So let's take some modular carpet tiles, right? With some green indication. So what's that clock indicates? It's actually mentioned as data point may be expired. So still you can use it, but it is not a good thing to use such a signed material. Let's make it as 500 meters flooring, right? So okay, floor slabs. Then other structure and elements. Other structure, we can go for staircase, right? For staircase again, we would have what to say, concrete and reinforcement, but still now we can other way we can go for what to say, precast stair. So structural concrete you can choose stair. Staircase prefabricated. Okay, let's check here. Concrete staircase, U-shaped with no flat landing, with center support column with and center. So it's like we have a precast staircase. So we can select this one, right? So the length they are talking. So length some 10 meter. So from 1 foot to another foot. That's the meaning, right? So then windows, we can start with the door and window parts, wood and wood board doors. So we have Indian options for external doors, but both of the data points got expired. Okay, 250 meters square. Okay, finally finishes and coverings. Finishes in the sense paint, right? Paint and other wall finishes. So you can go for wallpaper sometimes, depends. So paints and coatings. So Indian based options much are available. Right? We can this and all are would be specified in the bill of quantity mostly, right? So acrylic or non-acrylic, low VOC, or mostly clients don't worry about the environment, so they mind about the cost only. So the cheapest option or costliest option will be there. So accordingly, we have to try to resemble the condition, right? So let's select this one. So what's the kg? 250 kg, right? So it's everything is approximate. So in each category, we entered a set of materials, right? So you press save. Yes. Now when we come out, and see our dashboard, immediately the calculation will be completed. It's automatic in happening in the background. So what's the result it shows for the baseline condition? The total embodied carbon. So in the left side, this particular picture you can able to see, right? So what are the modules they have included? Cradle to grave, A1 to A4, B4 and B5. So as I mentioned, B1 to B5, at least you got to include two modules. Then C1 to C4, which means complete. You should not include B6, B7 because that is for water and energy, operation energy. So in case if you are choosing that reused material or locally reused, it would come with some D also, right? So this is the benchmark. So this benchmark given by whom, sir? Global Office. So they are considering different topology of buildings and their benchmark internationally, right? So that's the last updated, right? Global Office. G, right? Large options are there. Global Office, excluding MEP, which means we don't include any services, right? Only building components. So that's the criteria of benchmark. According to that database, this is the what to say, the benchmark your particular baseline design arrived at. So totally 34 kg CO2 equivalent per meter square. So this is the different module wise contribution, and this is the material wise contribution. Which material contributed more? Vertical structure and facade. I don't remember what material we entered there. So according to our entry, this is the condition. Now we should go for the proposed condition. So add a design again. Demo proposed, same thing. So once we complete baseline and going for proposed, we have to follow the same setup. We should not change anything, right? Everything has to be resembled exactly with each other, right? Same things we are doing again. Now for this proposed, we don't need to go for the trial and error, because the trial and error is one time before going for the baseline establishment for our understanding, right? So this calculation period, so earlier we chose 50 years, right? So same 50 years, same building area, everything same, right? Sorry, 5,000. Then building materials. Unfortunately, I forgot what building material we chose there, and what is the quantity we mentioned, right? So what we can do here, because that's very mandatory to follow the same thing. Only different thing you can do is the material selection, right? So that's the proposed, right? So we can import it from us, paste it there, right? So demo, right? Demo, webinar demo, yes, webinar demo baseline, right? Copy building materials only. So all our previously entered material would be copy pasted here. So everything comes here. Now we have to go for the proposed case. So already one material is there. The quantity we should not touch. The same thing it has to be. So the material we can understand. Okay, it's a brick fall, compressed earth bricks. So this is the environmental profile. 60 point some kg per meter square. So keep it aside, and actually, we should start with sorry. Everything would come. Just a second, let me come back. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Screen
Yeah.
visible, sir.
Yes, yes, fine. Actually, I'm just struggling with that, closing mark. Okay, no problem. We can go back and come here. Yes. Okay. Okay, right. So we start with the concrete. So it's the environmental profile, 303 kg per meter cube. So at the right side, and we can change it and replace. So this is the existing material, environmental profile. So what we have to choose is ready mix concrete, right? Ready mix concrete for foundation. So yes, foundation is there. So earlier we chose 25% GGBS as the base condition. So now we got to go for the better option with more recycled content, or which means different ingredient replacement other than GGBS, which would result in the reduced environmental impact. So if you choose this one, you can get to know. Okay, it's 182 only. Here it is 300. So it is better choice. 30% recycled binders. So not GGBS. It's talking about binder replacement or recycling. So it seems to be a better option, and it's from Indian location, so that you can choose here and you can save. So this is called proposed case, right? So unfortunately, we have to do both baseline and proposed case, because we want to claim that, sir, without the knowledge or realization of environmental impacts, we normally do the baseline case only. That is our normal practice. But after understanding the requirement of LEED, to get the green building certification, we include or we incorporate the green thoughts or green understanding in our project. So we now go for the better material choices. So we want to demonstrate this is our what to say basic mindset, and this is our improved mindset. So comparatively with the improved mindset, I am reducing this much amount of environmental burden with respect to my new building. So please give me the certificate like that. So this is the basic concept. So, so is this the practice happening everywhere? Yes. So people would like to demonstrate their understanding. So that is the base condition of any green building certification. So I want to believe that you do it really with your building. So for that we are doing it, and the reduced material database will be communicated to the client back, and they will revise their bill of quantity based on our LCA report. So what is happening ultimately? Normally, without LCA or without these thoughts, they would have gone for higher impact materials. But after doing the LCA, they have revised or they are revising their material requirement, which finally reduces the environmental impact to some significant amount. So how much reduction you demonstrate, accordingly you will get points in the certification, right? So everything, interconnected. So it's not like I can do it in the document, but I don't need to do it in the actual field. So if you are not doing it, you cannot able to renew it. So understand one thing, LEED certification or any green building certification involves continuous renewal also. So once you are not doing it properly, you cannot be able to renew it when the time comes. So I think it's 5 years validity for any LEED certification. So during the 5 years, it is the consultant's responsibility and client's responsibility to monitor and address all the issues that arises, right? So now we can understand for the concrete alone, we have chosen the different material. So from outside, you can understand how much difference it has made. So this is the 34 is baseline design. Now if you choose proposed design, it shows 32. So only the change with respect to concrete reflects in a difference in a final number, 34 and 32. So no, sir, I don't want to do anything else. I want to stop here. You can stop here. Or I want to optimize every material that I input. You can do that. And you can demonstrate as much as reduction as possible, right? So with respect to this, you can generate, you can see the graph. So what is this graph mentions? GWP, global warming potential, ozone depletion potential, acidification potential, eutrophication potential. This is ground level ozone. And then non-renewables, biogenic carbon. So these seven are the major impact categories as per this particular software. So we want to reduce the environmental impact, right? For that, these are the gauge marks or threshold are criteria. So with respect to global warming potential, how much reduced I have? So 100% is my baseline and the proposed case is 93 percentage. So totally around some 6.75 percentage. So in our presentation, we have just seen if you can able to reduce more than 10 percentage, you can get maximum 3 points. That's what we seen, right? So this is what it is mentioned there. So what we have to do is we have to optimize as much as possible, within limited conditions, which means you cannot choose a Western country material for Indian country project, right? So you can choose neighborhood material and you can show or demonstrate the reduction. Because you can do anything here, but from the results of this, the clients has to purchase the material, right? Isn't it? So if you are choosing materials from Europe, if you choose material from USA, where they will buy those material? It's obviously not possible. So anyhow, they are going to end up buying the local material or some nearby material, which means near neighborhood countries material, right? So it has to be feasible and it should be applicable also. So this is how people are doing it. So after this, what we have to do is we should go for the report preparation, right? So results we can understand, baseline result. This is the graph view, right? So number view we can get like this. So totally this much CO2 has been consumed with the baseline case. That's the per meter square per year, and that's the social cost of carbon. And for each impact category, the numbers are there with respect to different modules, right? So how much based on your inputs, based on your selection, it would automatically reflect, right? So you can go back and you can understand the proposed results. So once the proposed results is there, you can compare with the baseline result and you can understand the reduction. So what's the reduction? Minus 6.8. Why it is minus? From the baseline, that much has been reduced. So that's the meaning, right? So that's the thing. Everything shows in black because it's not so encouraged reduction, only one digit, right? Not even 10 percentage. So if you are putting in the 10 percentage reduction, you can able to see these numbers in green color, right? So they are like the things. So with respect to the things, you can understand most contributing materials, which material. So brick wall, and accordingly you can go for the alternatives, reinforcement, ready mix concrete. So whatever we have given as input, it would be there. And different visuals will be there. Uh, you know, double Sankey. General, we don't need, we can understand with the bar chart, right? And impact category wise, you can understand. So for each and every data, there will be the reference back. So from where those values are, presented or used like that. So from the more actions, so proposed case, view results, and in that more actions, you can able to see result report, generate word report. It would automatically generate a word report because we got to submit it to the lead, right? With all these things, it would generate automatically. And if you want to make any modifications, which means any formatting, alterations, you can do, right? So everything would come. So here it would mention, so what's the boundary, what is the assumption, what are the codes it has been followed, everything, right? ISO and European code. These uh, things are mandatory for doing the building LCA. So these are all the different modules and what methodology for each thing has been followed, everything, scope, material choices. So this is the LCA result in table form. So for individual material and the graphs and other things, right? Yes, fine. So so this particular report, you can submit it in the same form, or you can change the format as per your convenient and present uh, the same to the lead portal. So I hope we have covered uh, what we mentioned initially, right? So I hope the session would be kind of useful for all the persons. I would like to share the feedback link. So I request all of you to share the feedback without fail, because for those who submit the feedback, we normally used to supply the certificate, right? So if there is any question, please ask. You can ask now. Anyone, any question? Yes, just a second. So in the chat box, the feedback link comes. So I request all of you to share your feedback. And I suggest you to follow our LinkedIn page for continuous information about our webinars. So far we have been organizing one webinar per month. Hereafter, it may become twice a month because we are extending collaboration with the different other organizations and education institutions for offering sustainability related, green building technology related webinars, right? So I request all of you to submit the feedback link, feedback form once again. So I hope the session served its purpose.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this webinar, sir.
Yes, 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 fine, fine.
Thank you, sir.